Start with a prayer. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaskar. Thank you to Anandji for that fulsome praise and extraordinary introduction to a very ordinary person. Um, I was looking forward to visiting the Vedanta Society of Austin this summer. But like many other plans, we had to cancel that because of the pandemic. Um, but thanks to the efforts of the volunteers, the organizers, we are able to organize this program. Now, when I was asked about what I would like to speak about, I um, I decided on this subject, Atma Vichara, which means self-enquiry, an inquiry into ourselves. That is my favorite topic. So I thought I'll indulge myself. I'll really enjoy this session, I suppose, as much as anybody else or more than others. So we'll just slowly go into this subject, perhaps the most important subject that there is, most rewarding subject that there is. Look at what is promised in Vedanta. Um, the question is, in these times of suffering and anxiety, can we be free of anxiety effortlessly? Can we have a stable, lasting peace of mind? Can we have a natural joy welling up spontaneously within ourselves? Is it possible to be without attachment to anybody or anything and yet be full of love, be fully involved in life? You don't have to become a monk sitting in the mountains, but fully involved in life and yet be free of attachment. Is it possible to attain that in the language of the Bhagavad Gita? To attain that by attaining which one is not shaken by the deepest of sorrows, the heaviest of sorrows. Dukkhena guruna pina vichalyate. Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, by finding that, you are not shaken by the heaviest of sorrows. By finding which, there is nothing greater to be gained. Yan labdva nacha aparam labham manyate tato adhikam. Having attained which, you find nothing else in the universe which is greater than that. You've already attained the ultimate. So is it possible to do that? Vedanta claims yes, it is possible. So the reward is great. And I was thinking it's usually in the times of suffering. Often it's the times of personal suffering. You see, suffering is always there. It's only that most people carry on with their normal lives. A few people are struggling. Each of us, we find times in our life when we suffer personal loss, physical or mental ill health, financial problems, problems with family and beloved ones, all kinds of struggles, often localized to one person, to a family, and other people carry on. But in times of great calamity, like this, for example, whole society feels this. The whole society now across the world feels that we are in this space, in this time when we are all faced with a crisis. And these are good times to learn. This is the time when question comes up. What is the purpose of all of this? What is the ultimate meaning? What have we gained from life? Nothing lasts. Neither money, nor achievement, nor youth, nor health, not even life, not even this most beloved body of ours. Nothing lasts. So, what do we gain out of this? When you are young, life seems to be long and ahead of you, full of possibilities. And as we go through life, we find how fast it has all passed. All of you, I'm sure, you all have memories of being a child, sitting for your school examinations, passing out from college, getting married, or children, big events of your life. And if you think back, you notice how fast it has passed. In me, in myself, I notice I'm a monk. And if I remember It was just over 25 years ago that I joined. The day I joined the order, I left the world behind. I came to become a monk, this young person. It seems just like yesterday, and 25 years have passed. And I'm no doubt 25 years more also will pass just like that in an instant. 25 years later, I will look back. Yes, 50 years have passed, maybe if I'm still alive. So time passes just like that. What is the point of all of this? This ultimate realization, God realization, Swami Vivekananda's language, or the manifestation of the divinity within us, this is the purpose of life. Advaita Vedanta says such a thing is possible to attain that, that ultimate realization, illumination, call it Brahma Gyan, or whatever you call it. It is possible, not only possible, we must do it. That is the purpose of life. One may say, it is not my purpose. My purpose is to be happy somehow in this life. I need some money. I need my children to be happy. I need my job to go well. My health to be all right. But by all of this, what do you intend to get? We never think like that. When you think, by all of this, I need some peace of mind, some sense of fulfillment, some joy. So basically, it is a happiness that you are looking for. One second, let me silence them. Silence this one. It is this fulfillment we are looking for. And that fulfillment in the ultimate sense is what Vedanta promises us. So it is possible. Now, religion or spirituality, this higher spirituality where we are looking for God realization, there are two broad paths, often not recognized. A sadhu in Uttarakhand said in Hindi, "Do hi raste hai," there are only two paths. Jano ya mano. Either you know it or you believe it. Either you know it or you believe it. Now, this you believe it, this is basically how religion is understood throughout the world. In most cases, whether it is here in the West or in India, mostly people think religion is a matter of belief. Religion is a matter of faith. And that's not wrong. Mano, believe it. That's why in the United States, for example, the common word used for religion is faith. It's a system of beliefs. So that's one way. Definitely it is a religion, but that's not the only way. There is a higher way, a deeper, more profound, more direct way of attaining the same result, of attaining that ultimate goal of human life. Jano, you know it. One teacher, Punjabi teacher I was hearing, he was giving in his talk, he said that, जो समझ सकता है, those who can understand, उसके लिए बोध है, for that person, knowledge is there. And he says, जो समझ नहीं सकता, who cannot grasp it yet, उनके लिए विधि दिया जाता है. For them, do's and don'ts are given. You follow a certain path. These are the rules you follow. These are what you do not do. These are the practices to be undertaken, and with the belief that you will attain something. So that's the broad path which people are used to in religion. But today we are not going to go down that path. We are taking the higher path. More difficult? Not really. If many people are suited to this, are open to this, for them it's a easier, more. Swami Vivekananda said, in this age, Advaita Vedanta is the only religion open to rational minds. If we believe, if we find it difficult to believe, if our reason stops us from following the broad path of faith, here is a path which is rational, which is logical, which is direct, and demonstrates its results straight away. So there's this path. Looking a little deeper, not just two, in fact, three paths become obvious to us. Not just belief or knowledge, jano ya mano, but all three paths. What are the three paths? See, one is the path of belief. You believe there is God or heaven or something like that. Even all these other things, Brahman, Karma, Atma, they are mostly at this level. When we talk about it, at first it's a question of belief. You like these ideas, other people believe in it, and you have some kind of shraddha, faith in it, and you start up that way. And that's a good way to start. But there's a problem with this. The problem is, in this day and age, this is the age of science, this age of skepticism, of reason. If you listen to a few talks by Christopher Hitchens or Richard Dawkins, they blast the system of faith, a faith-based religion in no uncertain terms. They're called the new atheists or militant atheists. Very soon we will be cured of all kinds of belief. Belief is subject to doubt. Notice in all those debates between Dawkins and various pastors or rabbis, different teachers of religion or theologians, almost always, not almost, all the time, in every case, it is Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens who gets the better of the proponents of religion. It's very difficult to defend a system which starts with faith and is based on faith against the attacks of skepticism and reason. Very difficult. Higher than this, deeper, more profound than this, is another path, a second approach to religion or spirituality, which I might call the path of mystical experience. This is what Swami Vivekananda emphasized when he came to the United States more than 125 years ago. He said, religion is realization. Religion is not just believing certain things. Religion is realization. And it is true. At the core of every religious system, there were people, the founders, their disciples, who actually realized what the truths taught in that religion. They actually had these extraordinary experiences. As Vivekananda said, if there is a God, I must see God. If I have an immortal soul, I must feel it to be so. I don't feel it. I feel I'm this body, which is not immortal. It's going to die. So if I have an immortal soul, why can't I feel it? If God exists, why can't I see God? And the path of mysticism says you can. Here are the practices. Here is the way of sitting, of breathing, of meditating, of concentrating inside your inner being. And there, these truths of religion will be revealed to you. How? Not by just believing in it, through extraordinary experiences. How do we actually experience this world? We don't believe that the world exists. You don't believe that your father, mother exists, your husband, wife, or children exist. You experience them, you see them directly. In that way, even more so, can you experience God? It is the second path. Path of mystical experience. When Narendranath went to Sri Ramakrishna, his question was, have you seen God? Not that, do you believe in God? Not that, how can I believe in God? No, how can I see God? And Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, I have seen God. And so can you. So there is a way of seeing God. That is the path of mystical experience. A classic example of such a path is Patanjali Yoga, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. You practice these things, you will get certain experiences, and those experiences are supposed to prove the truth of religion to you. But here, again, there is a possibility of doubt. If you ask a modern neuroscientist, and some of you are brain scientists or doctors, neuroscientists might say, look, that experience of light you had, of oneness, that divine vision you had, I'm not doubting that you had that experience, but that does not prove anything. It is just a lesion or a tumor in your brain, and that is putting pressure on certain neurons, and that is generating these experiences. And we can also prove it. We can stimulate certain areas of the brain, and it gives rise to certain feelings and experiences. How do you know that it is not just an abnormal occurrence in your brain? That's why many mystics were always regarded as mad people. It's not that they are really seeing God, they are mad. Sri Ramakrishna, many people said that around at that time. Today we are saying Avatar, and at that time many people around the Kali temple in Dakshineshwar used to call him the mad Brahmin, Pagla Vaman. Because what is this seeing Kali and experiencing the Divine Mother? And he must be mad. A more sophisticated version is your modern psychotherapist or neuroscientist, who will also basically, in more technical and polite language, say that you are mad if you think that you are actually experiencing anything other than this world. So it can be doubted. Now, higher than that, deeper than that, is the subject of self-enquiry, which we are going to talk about. How is it different from the other two? Here, it is not a question of belief. You are not being asked to believe that you are Brahman or the absolute reality. No. You must not believe, in fact. You must know for yourself. You're not even asked to go in through certain exercises and get certain mystical experiences. In samadhi, you will realize this. Not even that. Those are welcome. Remember, I am not criticizing belief. I am not criticizing mystical experiences. They are all true. They are all helpful. And indeed, in practical spiritual life, you must have those also. But I'm trying to distinguish what today's subject from those things. We must drill down. We must be precise in our thinking today. So I'm trying to exclude those things from the purview of today's subject. At the end, if you have questions, if you ask, so should we not believe in God? Should we not do our meditation exercises and all? My answer always will be, yes, you must. Not only are they good, they are very useful in spiritual life, but they are not the core of the path I'm going to talk about today. How do you distinguish? So what is this unique path if it's not belief, if it's not mystical experience? What is it? The beauty, the unique beauty of Advaita Vedanta is, it tells you it's not a question of belief. It's a matter of experiencing reality right now as it is. It is not even a question of mystical experiences, seeing some light or some kind of vision, not even that. Just the experiences which are continuously available to all of us all the time. That this world which you are seeing, I am the seer and I see these things. That's enough to begin the investigation. I exist. That's enough to begin the investigation. Ramana Maharshi, famously, somebody asked him, am I qualified? Because we always think the path of knowledge is very difficult. It's not for us. No. He asked Ramana Maharshi, am I qualified for this path? And Ramana Maharshi said, did you say I? Then you're qualified. If you can say I, then you're qualified. Because Ramana Maharshi's famous method was, who am I? If you say I, you can ask, who am I? Self. If you have a self, and obviously you have, everybody has it, then you can inquire into the self. The very existence, our own existence, and what we experience around ourselves is sufficient to begin the process of self-enquiry. It does not ask for anything more than that. It is based entirely upon your experience. See, the problem with mystical experiences, though the promise is you can experience it for yourself, as Vivekananda said, but there's a fine print. It takes all these difficult psychophysical exercises over decades of time to have these extraordinary mystical experiences. Until that time, it's still a matter of faith. That other people had it, I believe, I have trust, so I'll try it. But Vedanta promises right here, right now. It's not a matter of believing something, not a matter of trying to get certain extraordinary experiences. So that's the beauty of this path. What is the spiritual journey here? It is not a journey in space, that you have to go from here to heaven, from here to Vaikuntha, Ramakrishna Loka, some divine, the pure land of the Buddha. No, you're not going from one place to another. That reality which Vedanta talks about, the self-reality, is right here, right now. You don't have to wait for it. After death, I will see God. Or after samadhi, after certain spiritual practices, then I will find God. No, the then, when you use the then, you are talking about time. But in this path, there is no then. Right now. Right here, right now, and all the time. And everywhere, wherever you are, it is there. That reality is there. Whenever you are, whatever the time, past, present, and future, that reality is available to us. And here you are not looking for something other than yourself. It is the self itself that is the subject of our inquiry. You are always available to yourself. If nothing else is available to you, you are always available to yourself. If a temple or a meditation hall is not available, but you are there. If all the textbooks of religion and philosophy are not available, you are there. If I am old and sick, I cannot sit up straight and meditate, but my own self is there. Maybe old and sick, self is there. If I'm lying in a hospital bed, self is there. So the self, what the object of investigation here is the subject itself, is the self, and that's always available. So it's not a journey in space, not a journey in time. Spiritual journey in this path is not a journey from self to the other. It is the self itself. Now the problem is, if it is not a journey in time, space, or from one object to another, then if it's a journey, what kind of journey is it? Why do we not know it right now? If it is right now, why don't I see it? If it is right here, why don't I experience it? If I am that reality you're talking about, which I'm looking for, why don't I feel that way? It doesn't seem to be so. So the problem here is ignorance. I don't know it. And the solution is knowledge. So the spiritual journey in this path is a journey from ignorance to knowledge, not from one place to another, not from one time to another, not from myself to some God. No, it is a journey from not knowing to knowing. Immediately people will ask this question, a valid question: is knowing enough? I have heard many talks, read many books, so I know, but I don't think that I'm enlightened or I'm a Buddha. Knowing here has a special sense, not just listening to a talk or reading the book. This knowledge is essential. What we gain from this talk or the book is essential, but that deepens into enlightenment. So you're already in the process. There's a very interesting thing. Well, if you're learning meditation or if you're on the path of bhakti, devotion, hearing talks and reading books is just a step. But ultimately, you have to do it. If I read a manual on meditation, bestseller on meditation, Miracle of Mindfulness, Thich Nhat Hanh, and I don't practice it, then I gain nothing from it. I have not even started. Reading the book itself is not a beginning. You have to start practicing mindfulness. But in Advaita Vedanta, now, right now, when you get this knowledge, when you listen to it, you've already started. 3 steps: Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. I hear, I reflect upon it, and I meditate upon it. So once you've started hearing, once you've started studying, the process of self-inquiry has already started. So congratulations, you're already on the path. And think that I have to listen to this, then I have to practice. So why doesn't he get on with it? No, we are already practicing just by listening here. Atma Vichara, inquiry into the self. Ignorance to knowledge. The claim is that we do not know ourselves as we are. We think we have to know things outside. There's nothing to know about us. But Vedanta says you're making a profound mistake. What you think, what we think that we know about ourselves, that is the biggest stumbling block. That hides the ultimate truth from us. Mark Twain once said, "It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you think you know, but you don't know. That's what gets you into trouble." We think we know ourselves. We don't. And that's why we get into the trouble called samsara. So what is this inquiry into oneself? The inquiry is, who am I or what am I? And the obvious answer is, why? This. There's nothing to know more than this. You see, here I am, this body, this mind. When you investigate this body, when we investigate this mind, the inquiry, it shows us very clearly we are mistaken. We are actually not this body. We are actually not this mind. Though the body is there and the mind is there, we are not it. And our real nature right now is startlingly different, is extraordinarily different from this body and mind. So let's see this process a little bit. And then I would like to interact with you. I'm actually going to point out the real self, Atman or Brahman, whatever you call it in Advaita Vedanta. We're going to point it out right now and see if it makes sense to you. And see especially if you can catch it right now, if you can sense the reality within yourself, within ourselves right now. I mean, the words I'm using within quotes because you cannot directly do that. Not the body, not the mind. Why? Notice that the body changes continuously. It's a fact. Babyhood, childhood, teenage, youth, middle age, old age, how much this body has changed. Hardly recognizable. We ourselves, if we were not told, group photo 40 years ago, and we might not even recognize ourselves and the body there in that photograph. And yet we have the sense that I was that baby, I was the child, I was the teenager, I was that young person, middle-aged person. Now I am here, this old person. That which is changing continuously, and this sense of unchanging identity throughout. The changing and the unchanging cannot be the same thing. In Vedanta, this is called savikara nirvikara. That which is savikara, with change, with modification, and that which is nirvikara, the sense of personal identity, this awareness of the changing body. That awareness has not changed. The two cannot be the same. Between the changing and the unchanging, there can be no relationship. One sadhu said, नित्य और अनित्य में कोई संबंध नहीं होता है. अगर लगता है तो वो भ्रम है. Very, very important precept if you think about it, very deep and stunning. Between the eternal and the non-eternal, there can be no relationship. And yet, if you find a relationship, that's an error, Brahma. How devastating it is. Non-eternal, father, mother, they come and go. They are there, and one day they grow old and die. Husband, wife, children, colleagues, friends, community, they come and go, non-eternal. And say, yeah, I know that. But what we don't know is, if they are non-eternal, you, the eternal self, you actually have no relation with them. We think we are so closely attached. My dearest and nearest. Husband, wife, children. If there was a time when they were not there, know it for sure there will be a time when they will not be there. And even deeper, if that is so, that there was a time they were not there in your life, and there will be a time when they will not be there in your life, in that case, even now when they are there, you have no relation with them. Now, I'm not being cruel. I'm not saying you should abandon your children and divorce your spouse. No. This is in a deep philosophical sense. Actually, in a most profound sense, you are not connected to them. You are not tied to them. If you are tied to something, when it goes, it will pull you along with it. If you are tied to something, when it moves, it will pull you along with it. If you're tied to a person, I am so much attached. When that person goes away, you should also go along with it. You will be pulled around. It does not happen. People come and go and disappear in our lives. We don't come with them. We don't go with them. In that case, when they are there also, there's no deep connection, attachment with them. It just seems like that. Brahm hai. Nothing wrong with it. As long as you know it seems like that, you'll be free of that. You'll be free of that attachment. And you can do all your family, professional work can go on. There's no problem at all. But you will enjoy the benefit of freedom in the midst of all of this. Between the eternal and non-eternal, there can be no relationship. Between the changing and the unchanging, there can be no relationship. You, the unchanging awareness, and the continuously changing body, you have no relation. You are not only not one with the body, you are not the body. It is not even connected to you. It is not even connected to you. Same goes for the mind. The mind changes so much from morning till now, just now. How many times happy? How many times miserable? How many times alert? How many times bored? How many times sleepy? After a cup of coffee, how awake and alert? How many times curious, angry, irritated, happy, pleased? How much the mind is changing within these few hours after waking up from the last night's sleep. Throughout the life, imagine how fast and how much the mind changes. But you are the same one who saw the happy mind, who saw the miserable mind, who saw the bored mind, who saw the curious and interested mind, who sees the fresh and alert mind, who sees the dull mind. If you see all of these things, then you are not the mind. If you have seen all of them, then all these things have come and gone. You are the seer of the mind. You are unchanging, nirvikara, and the mind is changing, savikara. Between the nirvikara and savikara, between nitya and anitya, there can be no relationship. It seems to be my mind, the closest thing in the world, the closest thing in the universe is my mind. I think I am the mind. No, not only are you not the mind, you have no relation with the mind also. Well, what a tremendous statement. And if you think that way, you will first of all feel a great relief. And where will the relief be? Not in the consciousness. Relief will be in the mind. Mind itself will be very happy to get rid of you. All the trouble the mind undergoes is because we embrace the mind as ourselves. So the mind itself is not me, not even related to me. I am aware of it, no doubt of it. Because I am nirvikara, mind is savikara. Someone might say, so what nirvikara what? I am the awareness which is aware of the mind. Through the mind, I'm aware of the body. Through the body mind, I'm aware of the world. But world is continuously changing, no doubt about it. Body is continuously changing, no doubt about it. Mind is also continuously changing, no doubt about it. Because they are changing and I'm aware of the changes, in that case, I have no connection with them. I am just the witness of these changes. If I am witness, if I am awareness, my very nature must be consciousness. The self is not blood and flesh and bones and cells and organs. The self is not thoughts, feelings, memories, desires, this bundle which we call the personality. Self is not that. It's the witness of all of that. It functions through it. No more than you are your shirt or your undershirt. In the same way, you are not the physical body, nor the subtle body, the mind. They are there, but they are not you. Why? Savikara, nirvikara. Not only are you not that, you are completely unattached to all of these, even when they are existing. Asangavayam Atma. You have no sangha, no attachment to them. Why not no attachment? As I said, if you were attached to this, a changing thing, when it changes, if you are attached to it, you will change along with it. But if you have not changed, if you are the same witness which you were in your childhood, watching the child's body and the child's mind, teenage body, teenage mind, middle-aged body, middle-aged mind, and old-age body and old, tired mind, need not be old and tired mind. Some people have old body but young mind. Some people have opposite, young body and old mind. But in either case, you are not it. You are the unattached witness. Again, in another way, let us look at it this way. Two more other ways we'll see this self-enquiry. These are called prakriyas, methods. One method is changing, unchanging. We just did that. Another one, my favorite, is drigdrishya. Is experiencer and experience, seer and seen. What you see is apart from the seer. Eyes are seeing all this. Laptop, all these faces, all these things in the room, but they are all different from the eyes, physically different. They are objects out there and the eyes are here. They're two different things. You say, so what? That's obvious, but so what? In the same way, the mind which knows the eyes is different from the eyes and other sense organs. And you, the consciousness, the awareness, you are aware of the mind and the sensory system, including the eyes and the world. So if you are aware of them, they are different from you. They are not the self. This object, the world outside, this piece of paper, I know I am not that piece of paper. That's a thing. But I am this person. But even this person, I can use the word this. I can use the word it, this body, these eyes. Even as you go further inside, this thought, these thoughts. If you can say this, it, then it's not you. Look at your experience right now. Whatever, right now, it's a very powerful method. Right now, whatever you can label as this, then it's not you. This laptop, not me, clearly. But this body, I can say this body, can I not? I can see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it. It's an object of all my senses, this body. Then it's an it, an object, a thing. It's not me. I am the one who is aware of it. Then the thoughts in the mind, which I intimately own that I am those thoughts. Am I really the thoughts? When the thoughts are not there, am I not there? I'm still there. When new thoughts came, did I become new? No. When memories faded away, did I fade away? No. Am I able to objectify the thoughts? Can I say this thought? Right? This thought is bothering me. This, in that case, I am not the thought. Even bothering me, that also I am not. You see, the question is asked here. No, this will not work. You see, you said you are not this piece of paper. Correct, I agree. I am not this piece of paper. But then in the same logic, you are saying this body, you are not this body, but that will not work. If you hit the piece of paper, if you cut the piece of paper, if you burn the piece of paper, nothing happens to me. But if you hit this body, cut it or burn it, I will feel so much pain. So you have to be very logical. In the path of self-enquiry, one thing is you have to be very rational, very slow and careful. What is the argument? If you do something to if you try to damage the piece of paper, I am not affected. So I understand I am not the piece of paper. But if you cut this body and burn it, I am affected. Terrible suffering is there. So I am this body. No, it does not follow. If you hit this body, pierce this body, there is pain. Next step, are you aware of the pain? Yes. Then can you say this pain? Can you say it is hurting? It's an object of awareness. Yes. Then the pain is also an object. You must follow this carefully. The pain in the body is also an object. It is not you. If you can categorize something as this thing, then it's not you. Just as this paper is not you, this body is not you, the pain in the body is also not you. It's equally enough. It's a more subtle thing. It's a feeling, but it's still an object because it is presented to your consciousness. The pain in the body is presented to your consciousness, just as the body itself is presented to your consciousness, just as this piece of paper also is presented to your consciousness. Paper, body, pain, equally object, not you. You are free of it. They come and go. You don't come and go with them. Drik drishya. Even you are the drik, the seer, and whatever you experience is drishya, seen. Thoughts in the mind, no matter how horrible, how depressing, how miserable, not you. My mind is dull, Maharaj, I can't meditate. When I try to meditate, I feel sleepy. All right, what does Vedanta say? Alert and peaceful mind. Not you, you are aware of it. Are you aware of the sleepy mind, the unmeditative mind? Yes, I'm aware. That's why I'm complaining. If you are aware of it, that one which is aware of the unmeditative sleepy mind, is that sleepy or unmeditative? No. That is shining always as it is. That is not affected. See, mind is sleepy. And if you're aware of the sleepy mind, later on you can report. During the sleepiness, you cannot report because mind is sleepy. But afterwards, you will see, yeah, I noticed the sleepiness. That which noticed the sleepiness of the mind, that which noticed the depression of the mind, that which noticed the restlessness of the mind, that one is not depressed. That one is not sleepy. That one is not restless. That one is consciousness. It is free of all the problems of mind. Drashta, the seer is not touched by the seen. It is untouched. Asanga, again, just as savikara, nirvikara, unchanging and changing, the unchanging is unattached completely with the changing. Similarly, the seer is completely unattached with the seen. And the seen includes body and mind also. Body and mind are not the self. One more, and then we'll be done. This is called Chit Jada. You, the awareness, the entire world, including body and mind, are presented to us, the awareness. I am aware, in my awareness comes this world. In my awareness comes this body also, however it is. In my awareness comes this mind also. But I do not become an object of the body or the mind. Who is aware of whom? Are you aware of the body or is the body aware of you? I do this experiment sometimes that look at this hand. When I look at this hand, what is my feeling? Am I aware of the hand or is the hand aware of me? I'm aware of the hand. Yeah, it is the hand. You say, so what? Same way I'm aware of this hand. Same way I'm aware of every part of the body, wherever I choose to focus my awareness. And none of these parts of the body are aware of me. Think about it. You see, what is this so great? One doctor in Scotland wrote to me suddenly, great realization. He said, I was looking at a scan image of the body. And he said, I've been looking at these for years and years, of thousands of such pictures of the body. And I just now I realized, in all these pictures, detailed pictures of the body, where am I? These are things, complicated, sophisticated, organic structures. But where am I? I, the conscious being, who is examining all these things. Where am I in this body? Am I in one place in the body? Nowhere. Am I the totality of the body? No. Where am I? It's an object. Similarly, even thoughts, take it one step deeper. Even the thoughts. Are you aware of the thoughts or are the thoughts aware of you? You, the awareness, shine upon the thoughts and reveal them. The thoughts do not reveal you. Simple experiment. Just now, perform. If I think a thought, like the funny thing is, You ask mind, please think a thought. Swami is asking me to perform an experiment. The mind, which is always thinking thoughts when it's not required, when you ask the mind, think a thought, Maharaj, my mind is blank now. Think a thought. I always say A, B, C, D, or 2 plus 2, 4. Some thought, 2 plus 2, 4. When you aware, now be aware of that thought, 2 plus 2, 4. Am I aware of 2 plus 2, 4? Or is 2 plus 2, 4 aware of me? So what a ridiculous suggestion. Very clearly, I am aware of a thought 2 plus 2, 4. It has no capacity of being aware of me. It's just a thought in the mind. Similarly, the mind is not aware of you. Mind which is composed of such thoughts, feelings, perceptions. Mind is not aware of you. You are aware of the mind. You are awareness and everything else, from the physical thing like a rock or a stone, to the body, to even the subtle things like the mind, thoughts, feelings, perceptions. They are all classified as insentient, jada in Sanskrit. And you are classified as chit, consciousness. Between the chit and the jada, between consciousness and the object, the insentient, there can be no connection. Appears to be connection, no connection. The light shines on everything. This light shines on everything in this room, but it is not connected to anything in the room. When the light shines on this piece of paper, it is illumined. The piece of paper is illumined, but the light does not stick to this piece of paper. When I remove the piece of paper, the light is still there. The paper does not carry the light away by itself. Similarly, when you shine upon the world, including body, including mind, no matter how disturbing the thought, you are not connected to it in any way. They are like little pieces of dust, little bits of dust floating in a ray of sunlight. Early in the morning, we see when the ray of sunlight comes into the room, you'll see lots of tiny pieces of dust, little bits of dust floating in it. All thoughts, emotions, perceptions are like those pieces of dust floating in you, the ray of consciousness, in you consciousness, in your radiance. Between chit and jara, consciousness and non-consciousness, sentience and insentience, there can be no connection. Between drik and drishya, seer and seen, there can be no connection. Between savikara and nirvikara, unchanging and the changing, there can be no connection. You, the seer, the self, you are the seer, you are the unchanging, you are awareness. And what you see, what you experience is the ever-changing, the seen, the experienced object and insentient. This unchanging radiance, revealing everything in your life, this is the nature of the self. This is what we are. This is what is meant when you say, Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am of the nature of awareness and bliss. That is Shiva. That is Shiva. Okay. One more, and just say it. I will not prove it here. One question remains. All right, so I am the witness, the awareness, the unchanging consciousness, and everything else in the world, including body and mind, are changing. So are they two different realms? Consciousness, not consciousness, changing, unchanging, seer, seen. So you have made a division. It is not Advaita, it's not non-duality, it's still duality. Still vast differences remain. Earlier, the difference was inside the skin, I am. Outside the skin, everything else, separate from me. But now I'm saying even this body and mind are also put as else, as the other. What is the relationship between consciousness and matter? What is the relationship between self and other? According to Advaita Vedanta, is a bombshell that what we regard as matter is actually nothing other than a projection within consciousness. There is no separate realm of matter. What we just separated, the changing, insentient object, universe, that is all an appearance in consciousness, according to Advaita Vedanta. It is nothing but consciousness. Vivekananda puts it this way. First, it appears to you. Then you look deeper. It's actually appearing within you. This world is within you. So that sounds cool. Object, put an objection. In Uttarakhand, Haridwar, one sadhu said, when this was being said, that this whole thing is inside you. Sab aap mein hai, aap sarvavyapi hai. You are all pervading. You are all pervading consciousness. This monk protested from the back of the hall. Question, I am here and you are there. I am here, I'm not there. How can I be all pervading? I cannot even pervade one room. I'm in only one chair. Even the fattest person cannot pervade this room, and let alone pervading the whole universe. In Hindi, he said, मैं यहाँ हूँ और वहाँ नहीं हूँ, तो कैसे सर्वव्यापी हुआ? I am here and not there. How can I be all pervading? The immediate answer came from the teacher. और ये यहाँ और वहाँ दोनों क्या आप में नहीं है? Even this idea of here and there, are they not both within your awareness? Where else are you experiencing space and time here and there? All within awareness only. You see, we think of it in terms of body. In body, I am here, another body is there, so these two are different. But we are being asked, don't think in terms of body. Think in terms of consciousness. Don't stand in the body and judge. Stand on consciousness. Identify with consciousness and then try to understand. A very good example is this. In dreams, we see a lot of people. We see a vast distance, mountains and rivers. I am here, I'm not there. And that's so far. Then when I wake up, oh, the whole thing was a dream. So here and there, all those distances, mountains, rivers, everything was in this mind only. It appeared that I was here and not there. Vast space. No. The whole thing was projected and imagined in the mind, including space, including time, including object. Desha, Kala, Vastu, all appear and disappear in consciousness. So first to consciousness, then you investigate, it is in your consciousness, and finally you realize what is in your consciousness, not outside it, cannot be anything other than consciousness. What is it made of? Consciousness only. It just appears to be an object. Then, if everything that you experience is not a second reality apart from your consciousness, no second, non-dual, dual means second, no second, non-dual, Advaitam. Consciousness is Advaitam, non-dual. You are this non-dual radiance, this awareness. And what you experience, this whole universe, the drama of your life, including this little body and its little life, they are all appearances in this immortal awareness which you are, which we all are. Advaitam. Brahma Veda Brahmeva Bhavati. By knowing this Brahman, one becomes Brahman. Becomes Brahman means I am already Brahman. I suddenly realize I am that. Aham Brahmasmi. I am not this. Na aham Dehoasmi. I am not this body. I am not this little person, Sarvapriyananda. I am this unchanging witness consciousness, which is the ground of this reality, the fundamental nature of this entire reality which I'm experiencing, that I am. This is the grand teaching of Advaita Vedanta. This is the end result of self-enquiry, Atma Vichara. Very good. I am done. I'm available for questions. Onak, can you keep calling out people?
Yes. Yes. I think we have a few hands raised, and there are few who have reached out saying that they're unable to raise their hands. So I will call out some names, in the order it is in the chat, and then we'll go from there, right? So the first question is from Anup Sundaran. So let me unmute you, Anup. Yeah, Anup, so please go ahead.
Namaste, Swami.
Namaste.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're a voice without form. I can't hear you.
If you want me to turn on the video, I can definitely turn on the video.
No, that's all right. Okay, I can see you.
There you can see. Namaste.
Namaste.
So, Swami, my question is a little more of a personal. I have two questions for you. One is more of a close to me personally. So the question I have is, I have someone close who has a health issue with her brain. I know you talked about neuroscience and everything. And she has ongoing periods of depressions and bouts of mania, which does not allow her to settle into deep inquiry. This has affected her family, physical health. And my question is really, how can I help her further? Or is there a way I can even help her with self-realization?
Yes. So the answer to this is a difficult situation. Remember, Advaita Vedanta or any path of higher spirituality is not against our material science is not against material remedies for material problems. Problem, the level at which the problem is, the medicine and the remedy at that level also should be taken into account. So nowadays, many good medicines are available, many good therapies are available. I'm sure there are many mental health professionals who can guide you. So take the help of whatever help is available, take it. And remember, this self-enquiry, why is it regarded as the highest path and the most direct path? For that certain amount of qualification is mentioned. That's why in all Advaita Vedanta paths, they will give fourfold qualification: Vivek, Vairagya, the sixfold treasure, and Mumukshutva, intense desire to be free, and all of that. So this is a path where you have really got your act together. If I am personally very disturbed and shaken, this path will not work for me so all that easily. So a certain amount of self-preparation is necessary. So will it have no use at all? No. By the grace of God, it might actually work. I know of at least more than one instance where a person with severe mental restlessness, mentally unwell, has found peace. This, I will tell you one thing. I don't know if it will work there. I've just heard this story. Many years ago, there was a Vedanta teacher in the south of India, and a person who nowadays they would have been classified as having bipolar disease and all, but in those days they did not know, just has very restless and all, sometimes becomes like that, sometimes becomes very depressed. So this person was brought to this Vedanta teacher, and luckily at that time that person was lucid, was little calm for the time being. And then precisely that time the Vedanta teacher told this young man, remember, when these storms come, they are storms in the mind. You are not them. They may come. It will be stormy, restless. Manic period is coming. And it's happening. But yet you are not it because you are experiencing it. That's all he told. So the difference between the mind, which is experiencing all of this, the storm, and which has a neuroscience background also, and you, the witness consciousness. Witness consciousness is not disturbed by the disturbance in mind or body. And it seems that person found a lot of peace. Those problems kept coming, but over time, that person became much more stable. So this Vedanta thing works. Another thing I remember is, many of us have seen the movie The Beautiful Mind. And the Professor Nash, he was right here in Princeton, actually. I never saw him, it was long before my time. But in the movie, I remember one thing really touched me at the very end. In those days, unfortunately, medicines were not so good. Now, much better medicines are available. Now, this person, this brilliant scientist used to have hallucinations. But when those heavy sedatives were given, he could not, those hallucinations stopped, but he could not do mathematics. So if you remember the movie, he stopped taking the medicine because he could not do mathematics. Without the medicine, he could do some mathematics. So the interviewer asks him at the end of towards the end of the movie, that, Professor, you're not taking your medicines. So are you still seeing those hallucinations? And he said, yes, I am. Then, right now, are you seeing the hallucinations? He said, yes, I am seeing. Then what do? He says, I have taught myself to ignore them. I've taught myself to ignore them. So remember, the problem in the brain is still continuing. The problem in the mind is still continuing. But he has taught himself to ignore, has developed a system by which he can ignore certain things which are presented to him, and he can function in the other part. If he can do that from a Vedantic perspective, we are all in the situation of John Nash. We're in the midst of a total hallucination called samsara. And we all have to, the process Vedanta is teaching us, savikara, nirvikara, drigdrishya, chit, jada, what is changing and what is unchanging. This is the way to teach ourselves. What is changing and unchanging in my life? What is seen, what is the seer, the object? What is the object and what is the subject? And what is sentient, what is insentient? You ask these questions, not only ask these questions, observe it in your life. That which is changing, that which is an object, and that which is insentient is not me. We have to teach ourselves like this. It is possible. If John Nash could do it, unfortunately, that 2 years ago, both he and his wife, and after going through all of these troubles, I said, what a tragedy, both were killed recently nearby here in a car crash. Too old. persons. Anyway, so that is the answer.
Thank you
Good
so much.
question.
I have one more question for you, which is more around the Drikdrishya, which is by the way, my favorite technique to create that separation from the mind.
Sorry, Anup.
Let him ask the question, and we'll move on.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
Basically,
know.
one question per
But
person.
just ask the
Yeah,
go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, so question I really have, keep it short, is as part of the just being aware of the mind itself, isn't it possible that the silent mind is seeing itself during that process?
The direct answer to that is no, it's not that. It may seem to be that because the mind has a capacity called introspection. So when you look into the mind, so when you're saying I'm the witness of the mind, isn't it introspection? So the mind can do that, but that's an artificial witness. What is the proof that it's an artificial witness? When you don't do that, that witness disappears. When the mind becomes involved in the day-to-day activities of your life, then that witnessing goes away. You say, I was very nice when I was practicing Vedantic witnessing. Now I've become involved again. That was an artificial witnessing. You're telling the mind, like mindfulness. You're practicing being the witness. That practiced witness is not the Vedantic witness we are talking about. What is the proof? Just think about this. I'll give you a pointer. You said that isn't it possible that when it's the calm mind, the silent mind, it is witnessing itself? So is that the Sakshi? Then in that case, Sakshi is silent mind, not Chaitanya or consciousness. No, the Sakshi I'm talking about, what Vedanta is talking about, is equally present in the disturbed, restless mind, which is outgoing mind. Even there, when the mind is disturbed, when the mind is restless, when the mind is outgoing, when you have no Vedantic thought at all, later, when you look back upon it, at that time also, were you aware or not? You were aware. And that awareness is the Sakshi. It is not a practiced Sakshi. One Uttarakhand Sadhu said when he was teaching this, at the time that Sadhu was telling everybody that, तो क्या महात्मा जी लग रहा है ना कि आप साक्षी हैं? So monks, are you feeling that you are the Sakshi? And the monk said, yes, yes. बहुत बड़े गड्ढे में गिरोगे. You're going to fall into a very big ditch. Because that Sakshi is not the real Sakshi. It is a practiced thing. And that practice is not bad. In mindfulness, you do that. In Sakshi Bhava meditation, that's a meditation. Like standing on the bridge and watching the water flow by. Fine, that's a good practice. But it is not the Sakshi. The real Sakshi is permanently, right now. Even if you do not know it, even if you don't practice Vedanta for 1 minute also, you are perfectly the Sakshi right now. And that Sakshi is unattached. When you realize it finally, you will see I was always the Sakshi. Even when I thought I was terribly mixed up with the world, I was still the unmixed Sakshi. When the sky is full of clouds, thunderstorm, it is same unaffected space. When all the clouds are gone, bright blue sky, sun shining, same unaffected space. But it seems different. It seems very different. Think about it.
Thank you.
Okay, Shanak, next.
Probably the next one is actually Gabriel. And Gabriel, can you go ahead and I will unmute you.
Yes. Can I go ahead?
Yes.
Swami, hi.
A familiar face.
Yes, from Mandukya class. And I'm having the same as I used to have in Mandukya class at the beginning, especially during the nighttime when I don't sleep. I do my Vedantic meditation, my inquiries, my contemplation. And when I do Aham Brahmasmi, I feel like an energy rising from my lower pelvic area. And it feels like a volcano about to erupt, but I cannot get it to erupt. I don't know how to describe it. And from what I know, it seems like a Kundalini rising. And I'm surprised because I've always been on the path of knowledge. I'm not a yogi, but this energy is so intense. It's like driving me crazy and I cannot get the volcano to explode.
Don't worry about it. Don't mess with it. Leave it alone. At that time, if you feel disturbed, just stop it. Remember, the witness consciousness we are talking about, it is the one which is aware of that experience, that intense experience. Something is going to happen. I want to push it through. No. Don't bother about it at all. If you have that experience, You are the witness of that. If you don't have that experience, you're equally the witness of that. My question is it Kundalini rising? I don't know, but is it possible? Yes, it is possible. The Kundalini, that's the path of Tantra. Now, in that also, Sri Ramakrishna said very clearly, even by bhakti, by devotion, by knowledge, by any of these paths, the Kundalini can be awakened. So if you have an intense, yes, if you have an intense process of inquiry, the path of,
it's exactly when it happens.
It will lead to that. But remain true to your practice. Don't be bothered with that.
Yeah, but then I have to stop it because it arises when I do it.
Stop it. No problem. You know that you are the witness. You know that you are the witness. Even now, the practice is not the central thing. The essential thing is that you are the witness consciousness. Change the practice. Then you listen to some soothing music, read a book. Don't worry about it. But one thing is why I'm telling you not to pursue it.
I don't want to.
You don't. Because these psychic energies are powerful. Now, there are yogis, there are tantric practitioners who can safely deal with it. But if it's not part of our path, we are not trained to deal with it.
Yeah, that's why I was praying, what do I do? And then I got the invite for this
Right,
session.
and it's an answer to your prayers.
Thank you.
No, I'm
so
serious.
I just ignore it.
Yes, ignore it. Stop the practice. Do something else. Fall asleep, listen to music, or read a book.
I can't sleep. That's the problem. So I usually do the Aham Brahmasmi.
Read a book.
Okay.
Don't worry about the Aham Brahmasmi practice. Even if you don't do the Aham Brahmasmi, you are Brahman. All of us are unchangeably, choicelessly that absolute reality. So there is nothing to worry about at all. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the second question goes from Poonam Tandon.
Third.
Yeah, so Poonam, so I will unmute you.
Yeah. Pranam Swamiji.
Namaskar Poonamji. Again, good to see you.
Yeah, Swamiji, I wanted to know whether there is a difference between Swarup Gyan and Brahma Gyan.
Okay. She always asks the difficult question, but very important question. See, some of these questions, many of them, are actually questions which we all share in. So when one person asks, don't be eager that when will I get the chance to ask my question? It may be that person's question and the answer to it is actually more important to me than my own question. So Swarupa Gyan and Brahma Gyan, in Sanskrit, and the translation would be Swarupa Gyana means knowledge or consciousness. Swarupa means the self or one's own real nature. Brahma Gyana means knowledge, Brahman. So Brahma Gyana is enlightenment, what we normally call enlightenment, realization, that is Brahma Gyana. Knowledge of Brahman. And that knowledge of Brahman has a very precise form. I'm reading about Brahman, listening to a Zoom talk about Brahman, not that. The direct, indubitable breakthrough, that realization, Aham Brahmasmi, I am that. Not repeating it as a mantra, actually realizing it comes as a flash, it comes once in your life and it removes all the darkness of Maya, and then afterwards it remains effortlessly. You can stay it, you can repeat it by staying with it, but it comes only once. Afterwards, you can meditate upon it and stay with it also, but it will be there forever. That's Brahma Jnana, and that's what we are all working towards. That's what is called enlightenment, realization, so on and so forth. Now, the Swarupa Jnana can be understood in Sanskrit in two ways. The knowledge about the self, awareness of the self, that's one way. The second one would be the self which is awareness. Swarupa is Jnana, or Jnana is Swarupa. Not the knowledge about the self. When you say knowledge about the self, it is equal to Brahma Jnana. I realize who I am. That is the end result of this Atma Vichara, which we did today, the self-enquiry. What should it result in? In the realization, I am the Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. I am that awareness, consciousness, bliss of the nature of Shiva, not this little body. This little body is there, it will play out its role. Mind is there, it will do its dance. It's not me. I am free of it. Let the little devil dance around as it will. I have no problem with it. This is realization. This is jnana about the Swarupa, about my real nature, which is, what is your real nature? Shivoham, Aham Brahmasmi. But What is that real nature? What's its nature? What is that thing? Body is made of flesh and blood. Mind is made of thoughts, feelings, emotions. What is your Swarupa made of? What is your self made of? Consciousness. So that is called Swarupa Jnana in the sense of that your Swarupa is Jnana Swarupa. What's the nature of yourself? Consciousness is the nature of yourself.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Probably the next one is actually Partha Ray. And I will.
To unmute yourself.
Thank you, Swamiji, for taking my question.
Thank you.
Namaskar, Swamiji.
Namaskar.
I have a small question, so I will put them together so that it appears that I'm having only one question. Now, the most difficult part of the whole conversation or your talk is to realize that I is totally different than my body, mind, and intellect. Okay, the realization of that. Person who has realized that is a Brahma Jnani, the consciousness, right? So that is one question. And how to do it in practical way? You mentioned that it is through process as by the way you are supposed to do the meditation and all those things. And then the next part of the question is Loha, Moho, and Krodha. According to Gita, are the three doors of the hell. Okay. Now, Loha and Moha, assume that I understand what are those and how to avoid. But the Krodha, the anger, how to take care of that. No, even though if I had the knowledge of the I consciousness, then probably I know that when you are getting angry, I is totally different. I cannot have any emotion.
Yeah.
Then what are the five? We know about the five senses. I read somewhere in one of the books. There are five karmendriya. Five
Can we limit the question? Otherwise I'll forget the earlier question. So let me just deal with the first two. The first question was that how do you actually come to this realization? I am not the body, mind, intellect. That was the question. Actually come to this realization. We have heard this now. Maybe we have understood it also. But how do you actually, how do you make it real? Realization, what is realization? Making it real. Just as right now I feel I am this body. You feel that you are Partha Ray. That is effortlessly you feel that. No practice is necessary. No. Like that, how can I feel I am not this body and mind, though it is there, I'm aware of it, I am the awareness, and this is something that I'm aware of. How do you come to this realization? That's number one. Now, I've already given the answer. See how the mind works. The mind says, all of this, what he's saying is philosophy, is theory. Now there must be some practical way, something to do now. That's why I spent the first 15 minutes of the talk distinguishing this path from the other paths. The other paths are paths of doing, whether it is devotion or puja or karma yoga or raja, they're paths of doing. This is a path of inquiry. If you inquire into it, you're already practicing. How do you inquire? By the inquiry of changing and unchanging, by the inquiry of drashta and drishya, by the inquiry of chit and jara. Now, even here the mind plays a trick. Yes, I've understood that. Not understood that. No. Do it now. How do I do it? The method of doing it is noticing it. Just sit quietly and notice how the body has changed. Just notice it. From childhood to middle age, this body, how much it has changed. And how it will change further in the next few 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And do I not feel that I was the experiencer of that little boy's body, the young man's body, the middle-aged person's body? Will I not be the same experiencer? Do I not own it? I am the one who was the teenager. I am the one who was in that middle-aged person's body. In that case, this unchanging sense of awareness, illumining this body, this changing body, can the changing body and the unchanging awareness, can they be the same thing? No. If you think like this, it's an obvious fact, but we don't think about it. If you think like this, you're already doing the inquiry. into changing and unchanging. And you will begin to feel, very soon you will begin to feel, yes, the body is there, I'm experiencing it, but I cannot be it. Do the drigdrishya. Whatever I experience is an object. I am the subject. Do I experience the body? Certainly. I can
Sure.
see it, smell it, taste it, feel it, touch it. It is clearly an object for all senses. It's a thing, an object. I am the subject. I am drashta, this is drishya. Drashta and drishya cannot be the same thing.
Sure.
Similarly, chit jada. I am the awareness, and this is an object of awareness. I am Chaitanya, this is matter. And consciousness is matter. Chit jada cannot be the same thing. Already you are practicing. This is the practice. Now, it is a good point to introduce all the other practices which we have left out of this talk so far. So if you ask, what about the other practices? What about bhakti? What about meditation? What about unselfish work? Swami Vivekananda spoke not only about Jnana Yoga, what we are talking about, Jnana Yoga, but Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. Yes, you will find if you practice those things, if I do unselfish work, if I meditate daily, morning and evening, if I have a deep devotion, love for Ishvara, for God. Remember, I'm not even talked about God once. But if I have a devotion in some form, in any religion, if I've got it, those you will find, those are very good, very helpful for this jnana. The mind is, they may not seem to have any relation with this practice. This seems to be so philosophical. And those themes seem to be so religious. But the mind which is prepared by those practices can immediately catch this. I have seen simple monk in Belur Math who is not so much into Jnana Yoga, but is a very devoted, has strong belief in Sri Ramakrishna, has devoted his life, pure, simple, devoted person. When I talk to him about Drigdrishya, he immediately catches it. And I have seen top professor of philosophy, the top university in the world, and talk about Drigdrishya, understands but still not willing to accept somehow. See, the mind is grounded in materialism. Very intellectual, sharp mind, grounded in materialism. It is somewhere, although the intellect understands it, somewhere the impure mind, which is grounded in material reality, it tells them, no, that can't be true. Whereas this pure mind, devoted person, because the mind is light and pure, when you introduce this idea, immediately mind says, yes, of course, I am clearly drashta. All these are drishya. It does not take too much intelligence there. The second thing is kama, krodha, lobha. No, lobha, krodha, moha. Lobha, krodha, moha. These are the gates of hell, Gita says. Just one point I will mention and stop. Moha is delusion. And the deepest moha, the deepest delusion is that we are body-mind. Because of that, what happens? Desire arises. Desire becomes predominant. The moment I am body-mind, then we are vulnerable to samsara. If I am this body and mind, then COVID can attack me. Swami, if you are drashta also, COVID will attack. The COVID will attack body. I will be the drashta of that COVID attack body. But I will not say I am attacked by COVID. I am the drashta of the COVID also. So, if I am the body, if I am firmly convinced I am this body, I am vulnerable to samsara. I am always in danger. Dityadvai bhayam bhavati. Upanishad says thousands of years ago. Profound statement. Source of our problem. The moment we think really there is something apart from me. Second reality. Dvaita. Bhayam bhavati. Fear arises. All samsara starts there. When I realize I am this non-dual consciousness, not even consciousness separate from body-mind. See, this first thing which I did, Atma Vichara, that I am the consciousness, not body, not mind, not the world. Remember, it is first step only. Later, all of it is in consciousness, nothing apart from consciousness. Consciousness is non-dual. This Drigdrishya Viveka, this Savikara Nirvikara Viveka, this Chidjada Viveka, this differentiation, is a preliminary step. One Uttarakhand sadhu warned, I'll tell you in Hindi and translate. ये जो दृग्दृश्य विवेक करते रहते हैं ना, ये कच्चे वेदांती हैं. Those who continuously keep talking about दृग्दृश्य विवेक, I thought he's talking about me only. You continuously teach that these are unripe, these are baby Vedantins. That's the beginning of Vedanta. Vedanta is not actually teaching separation. One psychoanalyst said, Swami, this will lead to alienation, what you are teaching. Correct. Because we are not stopping there. We are not separating consciousness from everything and then leaving it there. No, then we integrate everything back into consciousness. You leave it with just the opposite of alienation. You leave it with a deep oneness with everything. Nothing in this world is different from you. Nobody in this world is different from you. Yeah. Holy Mother's last saying, most profound. Ma Sharada.
Yes.
E jagote por keu noy.
Right.
There's nobody separate from you in this world. Jagot ke apnar kore nite shekhote. Learn to make everybody your own. May seem to be an ordinary teaching. Most profound, final teaching of Advaita Vedanta.
Right. Of
We're
course.
just reading, I mean, Sharadananda, when he came to Sri Ramakrishna asked, what do you want? He said, I want to see God in all beings. Sri Ramakrishna laughed and he said, that's the last thing. To see God everywhere, in everything. Sharad said, no, I want that only. And Sri Ramakrishna was very pleased. He said, you will achieve in this life. That is the ultimate.
Yes,
Non-duality is the ultimate. Now, moha is the deepest. Moha is this duality. That I am the body, mind, all these are separate realities. Then comes desire, kama. From desire, the problem with desire is, if you satisfy desire, if you satisfy desire, it will become lobha.
Right.
I want to repeat again, more.
Again, repeat desire.
If the desire is not satisfied,
if you
krodha.
don't get,
Krodha. So desire has two children, two evil youths: greed, anger. There is no good consequence of desire. You see,
Sure.
Somebody was talking about the frustration and the rage and among poor people in this country, in America. I said, again, go back to that central insight. Desire, if you satisfy it, if you keep satisfying desires, it will become greed. Look at the rich classes, those who stay in high skyscrapers and all, the billionaires who are staying here in Manhattan. What is their problem? They are not angry. They are more. There's no end to it. Desire satisfied, if you're a billionaire staying here, then more. Unsatisfied, homeless, and maybe ill, maybe rejected by society, maybe in all sorts of distress. Then what happens? I smash and I attack people and I attack the police and I rob things. Anger, because desire is not satisfied. In both cases, problem.
Sure.
Moha is the root, krodha and lobha are the children, the branches.
Very good.
Very good question. Thank you. Shonak?
So the next question is by Gaurav Mittal. And I would, in lieu of short of time that we are entering, so Gaurav and others, can you keep your question small and succinct so that we can actually get we can cover everybody, So that's the goal. Okay.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Namaste, Gaurav.
So when we inquire about self using avastha, traya, sakshi, digdrish viveka, panchkosha viveka, we go backwards to I, and that becomes to some degree living reality also. But that I is still mixed with mind or the matter. Sometimes you call it chidabhasa. And after this, for pure consciousness to reveal itself, do we have to just wait for it, or is there how to go beyond chidabhasa where we are still to the pure consciousness?
Stay with it. Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. You are right, absolutely on the right track. The final thing you can get to when you investigate this is the I. That I has three parts. Parts, I'm saying just in a way of expressing, it's not really parts, but there are three aspects of that I. If you feel I, there are three aspects. Two of them are knowable. You can sense it right now. It's very subtle, but I'll show you. One is the thought I. When you say I, Gaurav, that is the thought. It's called ahankara. It's a function of the mind, and it is changing. When you fall asleep, it goes away. It is an object because you're aware of it. You can be aware. I, Gaurav, you're aware, immediately aware of it. And it is jada. You are illumining it. So the consciousness which illumines that I That is called reflected consciousness. Right now, you will see, when you notice your eye, you will see two things together. The thought eye, after all, the ego is a thought in the mind. It's a product of the mind. The thought eye and that awareness associated with the thought eye. You know, what is the relationship? It's like mirror and the reflected face in the mirror. They seem to be together, but they're two different things. One is the mirror itself and one is the reflected face. Similarly, the mirror is the I, the ego, function of the mind. And the reflection is Chidabhasa, which also you feel because you feel aware. The same awareness you feel in every thought, in every perception. In the I also you feel most distinctly that awareness. There is a third aspect, which is the Sakshi, the pure consciousness, the Atman, which is our real nature, which is just the tiniest little turn away from that. But that I cannot teach. You have to do. It's exactly like when you are aware of the awareness in the I, what is aware? There can be no answer to that question. You immediately, and he says, Tad Vishati Anantaram, you become one with it immediately. You are one with it. Once you make that breakthrough, it will never go away. It's very, very close. Sri Ramakrishna says, imagine a thief who is sitting in a hut at night and only a thin wall is there and he knows on the other side pot of gold is there. So how sleepless he will be. He'll be continuously thinking how to break through this small little barrier and get that pot of gold. Similarly is the distance between you and Brahman. No distance. It's you yourself. But it requires, one Swami gave a very nice example. In aquarium, have you seen fish swimming like this? In aquariums, small fish. And when they come to the end of the aquarium, what do? They go swimming like this and they turn like this. It's swimming like this and they suddenly turn like this. That turn you have to do. Stay with it. And I'll give you another secret. It may seem strange. Instead of this process, there's another process. You're doing all of this. If you are devoted, if you have a deep personal, you have got mantra diksha, for example, Ishta Devata is there, or devotion to God in any form, genuine devotion, bhakti is there. You pray to God for that realization. That's actually an easier way. I have heard of people who have made that breakthrough, permanently realized Aham Brahmasmi, not by the process which we discussed today. They know all these things, but they got it by praying to God, to Ishvara, to the Divine Mother, that I want this. And they get it. Yeah, good question.
Thanks, Swamiji.
Okay, so probably our next questionnaire is Shoibal Gupta. Shoibal, just go ahead and ask your question.
Namaskar, Swamiji. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly, Shoibal, yes.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. I was thinking about how can we prove that the self is one? The self within me is the same self that's within another person, or for that matter, everywhere. Right. How can we prove the singularity of that self?
Right. This is actually a deep philosophical question. Advaita Vedanta holds on to the singularity of the self. Advaita Vedanta says self is one and non-dual. There's only one reality and there's no second reality apart from it. And that reality is Brahman and it is the self. Atma is Brahman. I am Atma Brahma in Mandukya Upanishad you get. But not others. None of the others agree with Advaita Vedanta. So famously, Sankhya philosophy says the self is many. Self is many. Now, how does Advaita deal with this? Advaita's answer is, why do you think the self is many? And Sankhya says, it's obvious. If you say, they give deep answers, but even those answers can be dealt with. The first obvious answer is very, very simple to deal with. There are so many bodies, but we just said self is not the body. We are agreed on that. So if there are many bodies, that does not mean there are many selves. Now, what does Sankhya say? You see, this Advaita's response is like that there are many bodies nobody disputes. Even Advaita does not dispute it. Ultimately, it's all Brahman, but right now at this level, there are many bodies. You can count. Here, let me see, 142 right now. And little while ago, I think 100, more than 150 were there. So many bodies. So not one body. Minds, So many minds. How do you know? Look at the different questions which are coming. So different minds thinking in different ways. So minds are also different. Advaita also agrees. Ultimately same Brahman, but at this level, body, mind, many bodies, many minds, many jivas, sentient beings. But beyond that, the Atman, the Sakshi, pure consciousness, Advaita insists it is one. Why? Because Advaita asks, how will you differentiate? Body you can count. Mind, you can take a survey and ask, you'll get different answers. You can infer there are different minds. How will you differentiate the self? Why do you think, oh Sankhyan or other philosophers, why do you think the selves are different? Now Sankhyan gives answers. I think 5 main arguments are there. Very quickly, you can give the reply to those arguments yourself right now. Sankhyan says, look, when one is asleep, another one is awake. If the self were the same, then you would be awake all the time or asleep. When one falls asleep, you would also fall asleep. That's not true. Sleeping and awake, waking, dreaming, deep sleep are not the states of the self. They're states of the mind. In one case, mind is sleeping. Another case, mind is awake. Another case, mind is dreaming. In all cases, consciousness is illumining them equally. How do you know that this consciousness is different? Another argument. No. The death of one would be the death of all if the self is same, or the birth of one would. No, birth and death are birth and death of the body, not of the self. Another argument is, no, enlightenment. If one person becomes enlightened and free, then everybody will become enlightened and free because it's the same self. No, ignorance and enlightenment are in the mind. Sri Ramakrishna was once asked that, okay, we'll leave that aside. He used to say that, Shorir ki shadhu hai, moni shadhu hai. So body is not spiritual. Moni shadhu hai means what? The mind itself becomes spiritual. So ignorance and spirituality are in the mind, not in Brahman or not in the body. Atman or Brahman is not subject to ignorance. So your whole spirituality, ignorance and enlightenment are all play of the mind, are all within the realm of Maya. It does not mean that many selves are there. Similarly, so all these arguments are dealt with by Advaita Vedanta. It's like, because it appears to be many, we think there are many selves. Gita, Sri Krishna says, Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. Undivided in all beings, it appears as if divided. There's vast space here. And suddenly, Manhattan comes up, all these buildings with their rooms. Now, this is Vedanta Society, that is other address, this is my room, that is another room, and so on and so forth. The same space seems to have been divided, but actually is space divided? Not at all. When all of this, along with the movement of the earth, Manhattan is also moving. So that means this building is moving through space at great speed. So when I've cut off, I've blocked up this space in this room, is the space being carried along with the room? Is the room, is the space moving along with the room, or is the room moving through space? The room is moving through space. Space cannot be cut up by these walls. It only gives the appearance. Similarly, by the presence of bodies and minds, consciousness is not cut up. It gives the appearance, mainly because of the Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. How many reflected consciousnesses? Many. Why? How many minds? Many. It's just like you sit in a barber shop and many mirrors, you will suddenly see Shoibal, many Shoibal, hundreds of Shoibal all around, just like that. Thank you.
Okay. Probably our next question here is actually Rajendra Parekh. So Rajendra, go ahead and ask your question. And
yeah. Namaste, Swami.
Namaste. Shaunak, after this, so have you got questions in the chat?
We have four more actually, what do you call raised hands. So,
Okay.
I mean,
And
if you can.
In the chat?
I mean, I think people who actually wanted to raise the questions and they posted in the chat at the same that.
All right, Rajendra ji, please go ahead.
This is a reverse of what was earlier talked about. How do you explain from Vedantic point of view, the Buddhist idea of no self? And I'm more interested in knowing what is the counter argument from Vedanta's response from this perspective.
I'll tell you what is happening with the Buddhist from a Vedantic perspective. there was a question that in the calm and silent mind, it's witnessing itself. So why are you saying that there is a separate consciousness witnessing the mind? Why not the calm and silent mind? Now, what the Buddhist is doing is, the highest function of the mind is buddhi, function of the intellect. So the flashes of buddhi, the flashes of awareness, which are coming moment to moment. So there are two things involved there, according to Vedanta. One is consciousness, one is the vritti, the movement of the mind. When you think of different things and understand different things, that's the buddhi flashing. And consciousness, we will say, one constant consciousness is shining up. Of course, Chidabhas is there and all of that. And all of that, you don't have to go to Vedanta. Sankhya is enough. What the Buddhist does is, according to us, is unable to separate consciousness from the flashes of buddhi. So according to the Buddhist, each flash of buddhi is coming with its own power pack, its own consciousness. So it's a flash of it's a thought, and along with it, there is awareness. So it is self-luminous, coming and disappearing. This is one way of looking at it. Buddhism has several schools. So what I'm talking about is Vijnanavada. In Tibet, it's called the mind-only school. There are varieties of this also. So I'm in my back of my mind is, I took courses with some brilliant professors at Harvard on Buddhism. So they will I can see them objecting at everything that I say, because they're always interested in the nuances, little more division, little more division. But anyway, basically this is our analysis, Sankhyan or Advaitic analysis of what's happening with Buddhism. That you cannot distinguish between the buddhi and consciousness, and therefore you think the two are same. And therefore you say there is no permanent consciousness. Each flash of buddhi is coming with its own awareness. You are aware of it. And all that exists is a series of flashes of buddhi. They call it Kshanika Vijnana Dhara. Momentary flash of consciousness stream of momentary flashes of consciousness. And the Buddhists say, if you want to call this the self, call it the self. But there is no permanent self. There is only a series of flashes. Yesterday we were talking with Professor Arindam Chakravarti in Hawaii. So he says that he was not talking about Advaita, but he was talking about Kashmiri Shaivism versus Buddhism. He says, see, you can attain freedom in these two ways. One is, it depends on where you draw the line. He gave the example of Sri Ramakrishna. Okay, I'm putting it backwards. Let's start with Sri Ramakrishna. He said, think about Sri Ramakrishna's simple explanation. There are two ways of escaping Maya. One is, when you make yourself very small and you escape through the net of Maya. Between the meshes of Maya, you can escape. You got too tiny to be caught by the net. You can slip out easily. Or you make yourself very big. Then you're too big for the net of Maya. Now he says, so we say that Girish Ghosh, in Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, our Nag Mahashai, who was very humble, he made himself so small that Maya could not catch him, that I am nothing, God is everything. On the other hand, there is Vivekananda, who said, who's Aham Brahmasmi. You made himself so vast, Maya cannot catch him. Now you look at it philosophically in terms of this question. What the Buddhist does is, the Buddhist draws the line so finely that just this moment, the only self that exists is at this moment, this flash of consciousness. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, separate self. Just as all of these 130, now 137. So all of these 137 people are separate selves. We feel like that. I also am what I exist. Tomorrow I will exist. That will be a separate self, just like another person. So I'm slicing it so thin. I'm tiny here. Just one flash. After this, I'm not existing. How will I be caught in samsara? So you have drawn the line just instantaneously. And from instant to instant, you're separating the self from everything else. The opposite is done by Kashmiri Shaivism and also by extension Advaita Vedanta. The line is drawn at infinity. Everything is included in the self. All of this is I. So where will Maya draw selfishness? Because you and you and you, everybody is I myself. From infinite time to infinite time. Throughout infinite space, everything is within me. So you become so big, Maya cannot catch you. And the Buddhist slicing is so small, Maya cannot catch you. Of course, there Sri Ramakrishna meant it in the terms of bhakti and jnana. Here, Professor Arindam Chakravarti is comparing the Buddhist slicing with the Kashmiri Shaiva slicing. Kashmiri Shaiva includes everything and Buddhist excludes everything. We are unfortunately in between. That's why we are caught in samsara. We slice it at the skin. Up to the skin I am, outside the skin I am not. From my big birth up to my death at the age of 80 or 90 I am. Before that I was not there. After that I will not be there. Caught in samsara. You will be pounded by Maya if you draw your line like that. Now, how does Advaita counter it? I just mentioned because I actually had to do it. In one of the exercises in Professor Garfield's class. So J. Garfield is one of the greatest present day philosophers of Tibetan Buddhism. He's very close to the Dalai Lama and everything. So one course he taught, I took that course. So at the end, assignment for me was, so you're a Hindu monk, Advaitin. So in the beginning of the course, he told me, Swami, keep your Advaita outside the door. When we study this Tibetan Buddhism, we are studying Madhyamaka Buddhism according to the Gelugpa school, the one which is the strongest, most rational kind of Dalai Lama's own group. So my assignment was exactly what you said. Defend your Advaita against all the attacks which you have learned in the past few months. So I had to write a 25-page thesis on the attack by Chandrakirti, Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti on the idea of Atma, and how Advaita idea of Atma is not caught in the net of Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti. It escapes that net. It's not covered by all the refutations. So it was not easy. The professor returned the paper to me 3 times. First time he returned, he said, what do you think? Is this a Vedanta Society talk? This is Harvard University Philosophy Department. Every line has to be justified by reason. Line by line, he cut it. And very good. I mean, he would read my paper in 24 hours and return it. Second time I submitted it. Again, he returned it. Make these changes. Third time I submitted, he approved. He says this is a solid defense of Advaita against Buddhism. Although he's fully committed to Tibetan Buddhism. But those details I will not go into now.
Are you going to publish that in the academic I would love to read that.
I don't think it's a particularly great. He said it is really good, but I don't think it's a particularly mature thesis. Anyway,
Okay.
sometime if you get chance, I can discuss the details. It will take quite a bit because you have to learn the actual attack, the position of Tibetan Buddhists, and then the actual attack by Chandrakirti, Nagarjuna, and then how can you, because they were attacking Nyaya and Sankhya now. So how can you respond to it from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta and consider modern neuroscience, philosophy and all, and then sort of sum it up.
So if I can ask one more follow-up question. If the flesh is the consciousness of
Yes.
Buddhism, whose karma is being transferred from one to other in the next cycle?
It is the series. So for Buddhism, it's a process. Quite a sophisticated theory, actually. You don't have to have a substance called Atma, Jivatma, even Sukshma Sharira going from birth to birth, as we Hindus believe. They say, why not a series? A wave is being propagated. In physics, for example. It does not mean the water in the wave is traveling from through each wave from this side to that side. At each place, the water is coming up and going down. When you shake a rope, the wave is propagated through the rope. It does not mean something is traveling from this side to that side. At each place, the rope comes up and goes down. We have all done that as children. Similarly, the so-called self is actually a process. There is no one thing which is being transmitted, which is surviving from moment to moment. At each moment, there is an impulse from the past. So each flash which is coming up has the impression, the imprint of the past flashes. That's why the whole series called Rajendra thinks of itself as one being called Rajendra. And because he's a Hindu, he has this mistaken notion of one Atma persisting through time. No. Rajendra is a series. And if you accept that and you call that series the Atma, Buddhist has no problem. But Advaitin does not agree. We don't agree that it's a flashing series. Buddhi is a flashing series. Mind is a flashing series. Body is also continuously changing. We agree totally there. But all of it is a superimposition or an appearance in one unchanging reality called Brahman. That's what we are saying.
Thank you.
Okay, probably our next question is my Meera. Okay, so Meera, I would ask you to probably unmute yourself and actually, could you ask your question, please?
Sure. Swamiji, so my question is, we assume that the changeless to be changing, and that's one kind of error. And so, but then when I think about the snake and the rope, like even though we assume the snake to be the rope, it's not a fundamental error because the rope is kind of sort of something like the snake, but you know what I mean? So when you talk about changeless and what is changing, are you talking about a fundamental error, or is it maybe we have some idea or some clue and we're not totally,
Yeah,
how do I make sense of that?
I understand your question. And these are questions which have been raised. Shankaracharya, when he talks about adhyasa, superimposition, the body, mind are superimposed on pure consciousness. You take pure consciousness to be body, mind, and the world. The question is asked, a number of questions are asked. One is asked is this question. Snake and rope are similar. You can mistake a rope for a snake. But pure consciousness and material universe, material body, how can you mistake one for the other? They're so dissimilar. So that's just an example, pure consciousness and all. I mean, you can have mistakes of all sorts. Imagine like a dream. In a dream, there is only a mind, but the entire universe appears in your dream. People and places and good and bad, everything is imagined in the dream. And it appears like a movie, like a world outside. So the mind, thoughts appear as people and rocks and sky and earth. So that can happen. Projections can happen. A movie, when you watch on a screen, right now you're watching, you can see people and places and things. What is there? Just glass and electrons floating around and some kind of imaging technology in your computer. And there is actually no person or place or thing in that screen itself, yet it appears. Now this is jada. This is insentient matter. It can produce such extraordinary effects. Imagine what consciousness can do. All right.
Okay. So probably our next question is by Chari. Chari, so can you go ahead and probably ask the question?
Yes. Can you see me? Yeah. Pranam Swamiji. I think the question is probably raised and answered also, but I'll ask it anyway. This is about the pure consciousness and the notion of rebirth and cycle of rebirth. And you also referred to Sushma Sarira at this point. So I'm wondering if we take this pure consciousness, then where is the karma associated with it?
No karma is associated with it. From the perspective of pure consciousness, remember, Advaita Vedanta is actually in one sense, very simple and very neat. As far as pure consciousness, when you say pure consciousness, you mean Chit, which is Brahman, the ultimate reality. From that perspective, no world is there, no body is there, no subtle body is there, no karma is there, no birth is there, what to speak of rebirth. But they all appear. That is the whole teaching of Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So if you see like a movie hall, what is actually there? The screen. But what appears there? Whole world appears. Comedy, tragedy, actors, actresses, violence, funny things, all are happening. You say, how are they happening if there's only screen? No, the reason is that the screen is the reality and all of the things which happen in the movie is a lower grade of reality. We call it appearance, movie, fiction. It's like saying, in a book, Harry Potter book, is it really, if it is only paper and ink, how come that boy is there and performing magic and going to magic school in England? No, that is at a different level. At the level of fiction, Harry Potter is there and doing all those things. But at the level of your Vyavaharika reality, it is a book, paper, ink, with some words giving out some meaning. Similarly, consciousness, if it is the only reality, at that level, no karma, no birth, no rebirth. But at the level of the fiction of our lives, Jagat Mithya, at that level, body, Stula Sharira, gross body, Sukshma Sharira, subtle body, karma, birth, rebirth, all those things are accepted.
So does Yama answer this question to Nachiketas in Kathopanishad?
Yes.
Is it referring to this lower drama, or is it referring to the higher Brahman?
Both. So Nachiketa's question starts with our experience. So all these questions will start at our level. what we experience. And then only we are shown the higher truth. So his question was very simple. People say that after death something is there. Some people say there's nothing after death. What is the secret of this? Now notice, his real question was about Atman. His real question was not even about birth and death. Already he has asked about the karma kanda yagyas, which means which will take you to heaven after death. So after death, if you go to heaven, that means after death something is there. He was born up in the karma kanda environment of the ritualistic Vedic times. So there was a common belief that the Sukshma Sharira remains after death, Jivatma remains after death, it goes to heaven, comes back again, reborn again. Those things Nachiketa himself says to his father also. But beyond that, is there an ultimate reality? That's what he's actually asking. And Yama reveals that to him.
But Yama says that you will be born based on your knowledge and your karma again.
Yes, that is at the level of Vyavaharika reality. And then he reveals Brahman to him and shows him that you are Brahman. That Brahman, if you realize yourself as that, you are never born again. In fact, Advaita Vedanta, Shankara will say in Aparokshanubhuti, actually when you realize that you are Brahman, you realize that not only you will not be born again, you never were born. As Brahman, you were never born. No matter how many births and deaths appear on you. Think of it as a movie cinema hall and the cinema. So tragedy and comedy. In one sense, yes, tragedy and comedy are there. But in another sense, nothing is there. Only the screen is there. When you realize yourself as the screen, the tragedy and comedy can go on. But you know it is nothing to you. The same tragedy will be referred to. A terrible tragedy, you can see the movie, again the afternoon show will be there, again evening show will be there, you know nothing has happened. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Swamiji, I guess we have 3 more questions, and I think
Let's
we
quickly
can
hear the questions. I think we have run out of time.
There's one by PK Kolengode. So I would ask him to unmute and please ask your question.
Yes. Hello, Swami. I am Parameshwar. So you have answered my question itself, answering other questions, but I still want to bring it up. It seems like a really basic question that I just want to hear you answer directly. So once, someone attains realization, once the realization is attained, then is it not possible to fall back into samsara?
Yeah, the answer is no. Once the screen realizes itself as the screen, is it possible to fall back into the movie? No. Because once you realize that the screen realizes itself as the screen, it also realizes that I was always the screen. I never had fallen into the movie. You're asking, no, at least the ignorance was there about the movie and that about my nature. So can the ignorance not come again? No. From the perspective of, it's like when you realize yourself as the sun, is there a possibility of darkness coming again? Darkness never came. In the sun, there can be no darkness. Somehow the illusion was, I am not the sun and I'm trying to see the sun and there's a cloud between me and the sun. All that is possible if I'm not the sun itself. But when I realize I'm the sun and I always was, then that whole thing disappears. It may sound paradoxical. Why not if it has come? Advaita Vedanta perspective says that not only you are Brahman, this ignorance and samsara which we are suffering from, that itself also has not happened. Yeah. It is not that there are 2 realities. One is Brahman and another one is ignorance and samsara. No. From the perspective of Brahman, there is only Brahman. It may seem strange because right now our suffering and our samsara seems to be the only real thing. But when we realize that we are Brahman, we'll see we always were, and what we thought was samsara, what we thought was body, mind, and my samsaric life was nothing other than Brahman. It was perfectly all right even at that time. And that also, see, this time we are speaking about it, we go deeper. Even this time also is a part of this game. When you realize Brahman, there's no longer future time, past time, present time. This is still past part of the game. Will the future time come when I again may fall into samsara? There's no future time at all. What future time will come? We'll be eternally free. Even when you say eternally, notice we are already accepting time. You say Brahman is eternal. We talked about this a little while ago with Rajendra ji. Eternal self versus non-eternal self. Advaita Vedanta says it's the same thing. What do you mean instantaneous of the Buddhist and the eternal of Advaita is the same? Because eternal of Advaita and instantaneous of the Buddhist all depends on time. Time itself is a dream to, it has no substantial reality. But we cannot think without time. That's why we are either thinking about Nitya or Anitya. To convince us that there is an eternal reality beyond our temporal reality, we are told Nitya Brahma, eternal Brahman, God is eternal, Brahman is eternal. Oh, I see, I have to strive for that. But that is also within time. We say Brahman is everything. I said it myself. Also not true. Why? Because we are accepting everything, then we say Brahman is everything. There is no thing at all to be accepted except Brahman itself. Brahman is all pervading. We are accepting space, then only we are saying Brahman is all pervading. Brahman is eternal. We are accepting time, then only we are saying Brahman is eternal. But the truth will be something even more subtle. Neither space or time are also real. They're all part of Maya. So, if you say, no, Brahman is eternal is not the truth, we tend to fall into the error of thinking, oh, so Brahman is non-eternal. I am born and I die. Brahman also will be born and die. No, not in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Swami.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have the second last question by Abhijit Som. And Abhijit, you can go and ask yourself, and I will lower the hand.
Can you hear me, Maharaj?
Yes, Abhijit.
Namaskar, Maharaj.
Namaskar.
Today, my memory takes me back to Devghar, my old days.
Oh, you are in Devghar?
I used to go every summer, my grandfather's house in Bompas town.
Oh, Bompas town. I see. Very good to meet somebody from Devghar.
Yes.
Namaskar.
Yeah. Last time we were in India, we visited the Devghar Ramakrishna Mission.
Vidyapith, yes.
Yeah, my wife's father studied there too.
Oh, I was there from 1994 up to 1999 and again for one more year in 2001 too.
I have in order to be grounded to this central idea of this deep and profound teaching that you have today in a more tangible way, I was thinking, would that be correct to think along this line? For example, is this the reality of, can be thought of like reality of existence, which says the fundamental premise, however, without applying the objective association. That is like you grounded reality without applying the rule of objective association.
Correct. Beautifully put. Existence itself without associating with objects. Yes. Consciousness itself without associating with mind.
Yes.
Bliss itself without associating with particular instances of pleasure.
Right.
That is Brahman, Satchidananda, and that's always there. That's a beautiful way of putting it. But it's very difficult to hold on to that. We keep associating with objects.
No, the idea was to set, because I want to be serious about it, so set a process with mind as a tool. So
I will say one thing for everybody. What I found in my life, practically, if you're seriously interested in God realization, is sometimes people are fascinated by Advaita, and I'm talking about Advaita, so I should not speak against it. But people see, the whole idea is to become enlightened. The whole idea is to get God realization. Somebody asked Swami Turiyananda, what was the philosophy of Sri Ramakrishna? Was it Advaita? Was it Vishishta Advaita? Was it Dvaita? A lot of debates are there about this because Sri Ramakrishna seems to say everything. Turiyananda's answer was very interesting and it's something we should all follow. He said, if you press me, tell me one thing. What is Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy? Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, Gyan or Bhakti or Dhyana? What is it? He said, I'll tell you in Bengali and then translate. Sri Ramakrishna's philosophy was, Josho kore Bhagavan labh karo. Find God in whatever way possible. You like Advaita, go by Advaita. Like Bhakti, go by Bhakti. Like meditation, service, go by that. So that was the philosophy, and that should be our philosophy. We should not say that this is the most sophisticated philosophy, so I will hold on to this only. No, whatever helps me, I will take it. I have to find God. I have to become enlightened in this life itself. I must. Most wholesome way is suggested by Swami Vivekananda. Do all four. Hold on to Vedanta, keep studying it, trying to think about it, like Abhijit Babu just said. Meditate regularly, find deep peace in meditation, morning and evening. Forget the world, forget the troubles, forget everything, even your own body. Sit in quietness in the radiance of God. Be totally devoted to God. Na ham tu, Sri Ramakrishna's formula. Not me, thou my Lord, thou my Lord. Be totally devoted to God. And last, continuously keep on doing good to others. Don't look back. So when Vivekananda said, Jeva phire jaye tar shindu bindu hoye jaye. Never look behind to see. What it means is, whoever looks back, I have done so many good things. His ocean dwindles into a drop. Never look back. Continuously keep on giving. Be absolutely free. Never look back to see what I have got. You will be free. You will become infinite. Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Most powerful combination and most safe, wholesome, beautiful combination. Thank you for the question, Abhijit Babu.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Probably Vani, go ahead and ask one question. And I think, Maharaji, there is one small request that has come for one additional question. And
Okay.
I was kind of hesitant, but at the same time, people don't get this opportunity to talk to you as well, right? And to hear from you. So I said, okay, after Vani, there will be the last question, and we will probably and then close the thing. So is that okay with you? I mean,
Yes, yes.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Namaste.
Thanks for the opportunity. And it was a wonderful talk. I wanted to ask, is there a relationship between consciousness and the 5 elements that support life, which is sun, space, earth, air, and water? Because they support every life and there has to be a relationship, I feel.
Yes. 2 points I'll make. One is the Swami who was here before me, Swami Tathagatanandaji in New York. So he was a very forceful man. And I remember one thing he would always say. I met him a few times only. Many other devotees are here who have seen him many more times than me. He would always say that forget Atman, Brahman, consciousness, and all those things. Appreciate life. He would slam the table. He'd say, life is God. Appreciate the play of life everywhere. I was reading in Woodruff's, the word as power on Tantra. He's saying that above material nature, this is the glory of material nature, also this universe, but higher than that, you can appreciate God in the play of life, in the vastness, the fecundity of life around you, from everything, from COVID virus up to blue whale, everywhere, this glory of expression which you find in life and our own lives. So that is one thing, the importance of finding God in life itself. Advaita does not talk about it. Why? Because Advaita makes a huge jump. All of material nature is lumped together as Drishya, Parinami, Savikara, and Jada, including life, Jada, because prana is also an object. If you're aware of it, then it's a Jada thing. Are you aware of life? Then Advaita dismisses and goes ahead to the ultimate reality. But you are missing several steps. So life itself should be appreciated as an expression of divinity. Very powerful expression. Second is Upanishads. Your question about the 5 elements. I will refer you just to Taittiriya Upanishad and stop. Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmananda Valli, and talks about Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam Brahma. The ultimate reality is infinite existence consciousness, which is what we talked about today. But then if you ask, this infinite existence consciousness, it's too abstract. What is infinite existence consciousness? Then the Upanishad explains. Tasmad va etasmad atmana, from that infinite existence consciousness, that Brahman, Akasha Sambhuta, Akashad Vayu, Vayur Agni, Agnir Apa, Adbhya Prithivi, Prithivyam Oshadhayaha, Oshadhibhyo Annam, Annat Purushaha. So it says, from that ultimate reality, absolute Brahman, space emerges, fire emerges, wind emerges, fire emerges, water emerges, earth emerges, and the 5 elements. And then it goes on. See how it brings it back to life. And from all of that, the herbs and plants, which are food for us, they emerge. And from that comes this body, the physical body of the human being. Soam Purusha Narasamaya, Upanishad says. I'm not talking about consciousness. We're talking about the body made of the essence of food. So it brings down to the level of life. This life is rooted in Brahman. It's rooted in the 5 elements. The 5 elements are rooted in Brahman. You can trace God back through this life itself. I just leave it. You look up Brahmananda Valli, Shankaracharya's commentary is there on these lines. Very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Swamiji, there's only one more question by Padma Minit, what do you call Tamirisa. So can you go ahead and ask your question, Padmini?
Sure. Namaste, Swamiji. My question is about real life. I mean, we are dealing with a lot of things in real life here, right? And you did tell us that, okay, think of this as everything is Brahman, you're a witness, you're watching all of this thing. But what I'd like to understand is to deal with the mental anguish that people have, because real life is, again, from Buddhism, if you go back to Buddhism, how do you deal with that suffering? The only way I can think of is I would look at these people and say that everything is Brahman anyway, and therefore the jealousy, the anger, whatever else you feel is just temporary, and I'm trying to deal with the mental anguish that way. But is that you were looking at it as, don't worry about the mental anguish, leave it behind, look at it as a witness and let it be, is what I thought I heard you say. My thoughts are, why wouldn't you deal with it the way that, think of it as Brahman, everybody is Brahman, and therefore if there is a mental anguish somewhere because of somebody, the way you deal with it is, Brahman anyway takes different forms, and that's a different form.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you, Swamiji.
Yes, because my internet is giving a little bit of problem, so you might freeze at one time. All right, I'll stop you at the very first thing you said. I'll talk about real life. No. What I talked about, Advaita Vedanta says, what we talked about today, that is reality. What we normally call real life is a dream. When the Buddha was asked, what are you? After enlightenment, when he was coming towards Bodh Gaya, from Bodh Gaya he was going to Sarnath, somebody asked him, what are you? Are you a god? He said, no. Are you an angel, like Devdut or something? And no. Are you a human being? He says, no. Then what are you? I am the awakened, the Buddha, which means he is claiming that he has awakened into reality and the rest of us are sleepwalking. What we say our real life is not our real life. What is so real about this life? All the great problems which you faced as a child, my exam is there, I have to pass the exam. You look back upon it, you will say, it has gone, faded into the past. And anyway, those problems were children's problems, they're nothing to me now. Every problem in youth, in middle age, later on in old age, which we will face, all of them come and go. There's no doubt about it. Even when they're there, when they seem to be real. Imagine if a person falls asleep, disappears, problem disappears. That means all our so-called real life problems and anguish depends upon one thing, your attention, your awareness. If you are not aware of it, it's not a problem to you. Now, Advaita Vedanta says, one crucial thing, it says is this. For this, you don't need Advaita. It's actually from Patanjali Yoga. We make a very big mistake. We think that the world is disturbing us. That's why my mind is so disturbed. The big mistake is this is not true. It is because my mind is disturbed that I see the world as a problem. The sadhu said, अशांत मन में भला संसार कौन देख अशांत मन में भला संसार कौन देखा है. In a peaceful mind, who has seen a samsara? We think samsara is there, therefore my mind is ashanta. No, Vedanta and of course Patanjali Yoga tells us, because your mind is ashanta, that's why you are seeing samsara. Isn't it possible what you call real life problems? Haven't you seen people in the same problem which I am facing? That person is so calm. That person is so patient. How is it possible? If the problem is so terrible, same problem in two cases, one person breaks down, other person forbears. and manages to come out resilient. Psychologists talk about resilience. So a great part of the problem is not in the world, so-called real world outside. It is in our minds.
Mm.
And so Vedanta, Buddhism, they all help us to deal with this problem. Any problem in the real world, is it better to deal with it with a restless, disturbed mind or with a calm and peaceful mind? The problem is the same problem. It may be illness, it may be a disturbing person. If you are calm and peaceful, deep, isn't it much more easy to deal with it? Much more easy.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much for that
Thank you.
practical question. Yes, thank you so much. Let me do a chant.
So Anand uncle is going to say few things after the talk is over, after the session is over. So it's up to you.
I'll do the
Maharaj,
chant.
take it. Yes.
Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Thank you so much. We are like tremendously beyond time.
Unfortunately it is. So Anand uncle, I will quickly unmute you and please say the note of thanks,
Very
vote of
quick.
thanks on this, and we
Very,
can close this.
very quick. Is everybody able to hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes. I think on behalf of VCGA, that is Vedanta Center of Greater Austin, we wholeheartedly thank all those who are registered for this event and attended the event, enthusiastically asked questions, got enthusiastic answer from Maharaj. Thank you so much. And Maharaj, I don't know how to express through words. And the COVID-19 has placed two great demands. Number one, it placed a great demand on vaccine, everybody knows. Number two, it placed the availability of time for Maharaj to speak to many people during this time through Zoom, YouTube. So with that shortage of his availability of time, Maharaj still accepted our invitation. And it was very graceful, very fortunate that we are able to listen to you today, and very useful from the point of view of how to make our mind peaceful, take things easy. And Maharaj, my only request, we are small center, Maharaj. Please keep us in your consideration.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I was just looking at all the faces. I recognize people from India who are here and people from other parts of the world also. I think I know somebody who is in Vietnam now. So there are people from all across the world who have gathered. So that's one advantage of the COVID situation, that we can gather like this virtually from all over the world. I enjoyed it very much, this session. Very sincere seekers and very deep questions. And one sign was that almost everybody has stayed till the end, although we are about 45 minutes over time. So everybody is interested in the discussions going on. I pray to Sri Ramakrishna, I pray to the Holy Mother to bless all of us, especially the organizers, the volunteers at the Vedanta Society of Austin, and all the devotees gathered virtually here from across the world. May the Lord bless all of us. May the Lord protect all of us. Thank you very much. Stay well. Stay well. Jai Sri Ramakrishna.
Jai Sri Ramakrishna Maharaj Ki Jai.